My friend, what is the single most necessary thing for us to function as survivors? To be happy in life, to be on our road towards healing, to feel good about ourselves, to feel connection with the world around us, to feel that true sense of interconnectedness with people in your life. What is that one thing? I'm here to tell you. It is trust. Trust! Trust is the single most important thing for our well-being, for our healing, for our sense of happiness and fulfillment in life. How do I know this? Because I have suffered. Because I have been through my own experience of going through trauma, through difficult things in my life, through times where I felt so much shame about who I am, so much guilt about what I've experienced or allowed to happen to me. So many things that I've carried from childhood into my teenage years, into my adulthood, that just made my life just so much more difficult. But also because I found my own path towards redemption, towards leading a happier, more fulfilled life, a meaningful life, to connecting and now giving my best, right? By the way, if you don't know me, my name is Joe Bakhmutsky. I am the founder of Power to Be Happy. I'm also proud author of Finding Hope in Times of Uncertainty, a guide to thriving in a challenging world of today. I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, and on my podcast, Power to Be Happy, I have spoken, and also in support groups and in community, I've spoken with hundreds and thousands of people who've been through trauma, whether it's to do with their health, whether it's grief, whether it's something that happened in their childhood, whether it's something that's happening in their life right now that's making their life difficult. I've spoken to people across, from people who are in a space of trying to survive each day and get by, trying to get through the day, also all the way through to people who are, feel like their life has momentum and they are on their journey towards healing, but also in a way that helps them to support others in their life, or people they have never met but they care about deeply. So, and one thing that I believe unites us, all of us, is trust. And let's talk about definition. Let's talk about what does trust even mean, right? I want to share with you the definition that speaks true for me. I want to see how that sits with you. Because trust, we all kind of know what trust is, but there's so many ways to look at it. I'm going to share with you my own. I believe that what trust really is a way of living and relating to each other, but also self, that invites you to act from a place of authenticity and personal power. That's right. I believe that trust is a way of living and relating to each other, but also to self, in a way that invites you to act from a place of authenticity and also personal power. Because we don't do trust on our own. Like, that's where it begins. But it also is about how we are with other people. And sometimes trust, for those of us who've been through the struggle, who've been through abuse or trauma, that's a difficult place to be, right? Like trust sometimes is the last thing you have. And yet, I believe that it's there inside of us, deeply in all of us. And that's something we gotta cultivate. Not because it's important, but because it's required for us to heal. It's required for us to move forward. It's required for us to feel better about ourselves, the world around us, our body. Like, trust is crucial. So I'm always going to speak in this moment about trust from about self and trust in relation to others. Now, why is trust so important? Well, that's because without trust, we can't really have love and respect, right? Because listen, if you don't trust, your partner, if you don't trust your friend, if you don't trust that person you work with, I mean, you're not going to be able to respect them. You're not going to be able to fall in love with someone if you don't have that trust. That, like, it's a must. That's what I always say in our world of healing from trauma. Trust is a must. I always say that trust is a must. It is an absolute must. If we want to live a greater life, what I call a greater life, if we want to move forward and live in a meaningful way, we gotta have it. We gotta have trust. Trust is a must. There is no alternative here. There is none. So without trust, we cannot have love, we cannot have respect. It's also very difficult to kind of be on that path to heal. What I'm saying on the path, because, that journey, that like often takes the whole life. At least that's how I look at it. And to me, that's tremendously liberating, right? Because being on a journey and meaning that it takes the whole life, it removes the pressure, right? It doesn't mean that, I have to be perfect. I have to get everything right. I have to get someone to fix myself. Get someone to fix me. And it also removes any false ideas about how things are. For the longest time, I honestly thought, for so many years as an adult especially, I thought that I was over it. I was over going through rape as a child. I was over so many other things that have happened to me, and I thought I was over it. And when I stepped into that experience and opened up about it for the first time, and as I started to kind of experience life in a different way and experience this other part of me come to life, I realized, that for so many years, this I just repressed it, I just beat it down. And this was always buried somewhere deep inside of me, and it was holding me back. And it was making my life difficult, because that part of me, I never allowed it to come forward. I never allowed it to be present, to be part of the healing process. And even like that word healing, that's never existed in my vocabulary until I, met another survivor, until I started meeting others, until I started seeing a therapist, until I started getting progress and feeling bad about myself, until I started to learn how to express myself with more freedom, and more focus and intention and greater sense of just liberty of what I'm doing, and who I am, frankly speaking. So trust is so necessary. Trust in other people, as in sharing your story, but also trust in just expressing your true self, your true nature. Because without having that trust that what you have to say, what you feel, what comes up is uniquely yours and valid, like without that, how can we move forward? How can we even talk about healing when that's not even part of the conversation? So I think it's necessary and it is required. And also without trust, how can we dream? How can we have hopes, visions, ideas? How can we, make progress or move forward in any way when we don't trust ourselves to see beyond our current circumstances? When you don't trust yourself to step out of things that have been holding you back, to step out of your immediate struggles, to step out of what other people might think. Because who cares what they think? You know? Maybe they will accept it, maybe they will be happy about it, maybe they won't. It doesn't make their opinions invalid, but it doesn't say anything about you. And we gotta be able to step into it. The trust in yourself, trust in you. Because listen, isn't it true that you've been through so much in your life? You have suffered. You have been through the hell and back. Maybe your life isn't perfect according to somebody else's view of life, but you're here. You have survived. You and your true spirit matters. Trust in that. You don't even have to have the confidence or believe in yourself. You have to trust in all of us. Because you're one of us. Your story, my friend, is our story. Even though what you have experienced is so unique to you, right? Nobody even knows your story. Maybe even you yourself don't acknowledge your own story to the fullest extent. And yet it's part of who you are. And so I'm here to honor that, honor your journey, where you've been, where you're at right now, and where you might be going. So with that, I want to talk about what is trust. And I have a few 5 things that I believe add up and really help us create trust both within ourselves, but also help build trust with people around us. And the first thing that I really believe that is absolute crucial, and again, without that, we cannot have trust if we don't tell the truth. Telling the truth is, and you might be thinking, well, what are you saying, Joe? I already tell the truth. But I think sometimes truth can come in so many different ways. Truth is, of course, about being honest with people. But it's also being honest with yourself. I want to ask you, when was the last time you felt like you wanted to share something, but something that was just came up for you, you felt and was important to you, but then you held back because you thought, well, they're not going to like it. Maybe they're going to be hurt by it. Maybe this person might push me away. Maybe they might judge me for who I am. Do you remember the last time that happened? And that's not to say that you shouldn't care about other people's feelings. But that is to say that sharing your truth, whether that's your story of struggle, whether that's your true feelings, your true beliefs, your true ideas about, or dreams and hopes, and what you want in life. I mean, listen, honestly, how many people know what you actually want in life? I know it's so basic, right? But how many people know what you want in life? Do you know what you want in life? And if you can articulate it, do other people really understand that? People who are maybe the closest to you, do they know that? I think we gotta get better at telling the truth. That's something that I'm working on right now. And sometimes it's hard. Because you don't want to hurt other people's feelings. And we are all afraid of being judged. But truth is, people are going to have opinions either way. Whether you share your truth with them or not, they're going to judge us anyway. So we might as well you might as well be you. You might as well be you and tell your truth out in the world. The second thing that is so necessary is relating. How do we relate with each other? And I don't think it's weird and sophisticated thing. I think it's just about values, right? Because the way that we are with each other, the way that how we kind of relate to each other, and the way that we relate with self and different parts of you, and that speak to different experiences that you have, has to do with like our values. And what are values? Like, I really believe that our values, they're choices that we make every day, right? And sometimes most of the time, we don't really think about that. But we don't really think about like, the choices that we make in our day-to-day life. And yet we make, like, each day, each moment, we're making choices, aren't we? You're making a choice whether to listen to this or not. You're making a choice about what you're going to do. Even if something is part of your routine, you're still making a choice about it. And what I'm saying, I think it's important to think about the choices that we make more consciously. And go, if I'm, being with my partner, if we're doing something together, it's not just because I have to do it. Like, it's a choice. And that brings more consciousness, more awareness, and a greater sense of commitment and appreciation to the things that we do, to our way of life, right? When we bring it out, when we all of a sudden make it real, these choices, we take them out from the realm of, somewhere happening in the background, but it's now we're going, I'm making a choice about this. It's visible, you know what it is, and it's driving what we do. It drives our values. It drives the way we relate to each other and self. Right? That brings more compassion. That brings a greater sense of just gratitude. Right? Because gratitude, where does gratitude come from? It's from making choices, conscious choices, and acknowledging these choices, accepting these choices. That's part of how we are with other people and how we treat self. Because if we make commitments to choices, if we make conscious decisions and see these choices as decisions that we make, we honor ourselves, honor our experience, and the people around us. We start to see them as people who've also been through things and who also deserve. Next time, in order for us to build trust, we gotta have understanding. We gotta move towards understanding each other, towards understanding of self. And to me, that always comes from a place of compassion. So much of our time, again, is spent without even acknowledging our own experience, acknowledging our struggles, acknowledging our past. Sometimes we cannot even remember our past. There's parts of our lives that may be blocked through the traumatic experience, through disassociations, through just confusion, through suffering, through struggles. We don't want to think about it. But sometimes we want to have that greater clarity and great awareness of how things are. Why? Because it helps us to see how interconnected everything is. That everything is connected. And I think that brings a sense of, again, compassion to our own experience, to what you've been through. Because it puts it, you all of a sudden you can zoom out and go, oh wow, that explains why I've been through things. For me, it was like, I remember one of the first sessions with my therapist, she said, listen, Joe, let's do this thing called the trauma map. And we'll talk about the difficult experience you had in your life that may have had an impact on you. And we went through things and I was like, oh my goodness, this is why I'm a mess. But I realized this is everything that I've experienced. Now it makes sense. There's a lot to work with, but you don't go to a place where you didn't necessarily feel sorry for yourself. You go, oh, I get it now. It makes sense. And when we do that for ourselves, we also start to do that for other people. Because now you get to see other people's as also as survivors, as people who've been through things, as people who also have suffered, as people who deserve to have their own path towards healing, to have a greater understanding from others, from you and I. Right? That sense of understanding comes from sharing our story, comes from being in the process of healing, comes from journaling about your experience. I'm journaling every day. Sometimes it's from a perspective of gratitude, sometimes it's from planning, but sometimes it's also about how is it I feel? What happened that made me upset? How do I see the relationship with this other person? What can I do to forgive this person for what happened in the past? And sometimes it's just write stuff. And it helps me to kind of make sense of it. Helps me to understand what I feel, what I think, but also understand others better. I think that's crucial. Understanding. So vital to building trust. Next up, we've got sharing. Sharing is something that sharing what is important to you, and having that communication, that conversation with others, but also with yourself, is sharing, get into the habit of sharing your true thoughts, your true feelings, your true beliefs, your true ideas and your visions, but also from perspective of sharing is always a two-way street, right? So sharing is also about listening and truly tuning into other people's thoughts, ideas, feelings, truly listening and trying to connect. Where is this person coming from? Because if they're gonna give you that time of day, if they're gonna really connect to what's real for you now, even when maybe that relationship has been rocky, maybe you don't even have a relationship there, but for other people to get you and to connect with you and to try and understand you and build that trust and understanding, it's also necessary to have that communication that goes both ways and to truly listen. What matters to this person? What do they care about? What's really in between the lines? Like, here's this thing they're saying, but what is they really trying to say? Right? Because there's always something that's going on, right? Isn't it true that there's always something that's going on under the surface, between the lines? And we can really get that. I think the only art in that is just taking the time to listen, which I do think is a lost art. Because when you get the time to listen and really get the person, you're giving them this incredible gift that people don't often have or don't often share with other people. I think you'd be doing them such an incredible service of helping them understand who they are. Because they get to understand who they are. They get to get that experience of being heard. That's vital. And last but not least, to have to trust, to build trust with others and ourselves, we gotta give it time. We gotta give time, my friend. We have to give time. We have to be generous with our time. How, without expecting things to happen like this, without expecting that things are just magically gonna shift, whether it's on our own healing journey, whether that's on our own experience, whether that's our ambitions or dreams, whether that's our relationships. You know, when we're trying to build trust with the person you care about, or maybe it's a person you've met, or maybe it's a person you're gonna lost touch with, or maybe it's a person you work with. Like, it's always, we want to give it time. We want to give them time. We want to give ourselves time. Because we want to really not be in a place where we're rushing, because rushing towards things creates expectations, and sometimes these are false expectations. So we have to be gentle towards self, towards other people, and compassionate from a place of, we've all been through things. You have been through things. So please be gentle with yourself, because you deserve it. You, my friend, deserve to have trust in yourself, trust in what you're doing, trust in what you feel, trust in people around you, trust in your dreams, in your hopes, in your beliefs. And that's something we build. That's something we build towards through telling the truth, our truth, through learning how to relate to each other better, through living through our values, by making conscious choices and decisions, by understanding where we are all coming from, understanding our own story, where we've been, but also understanding other people. By having to share that both ways, that responsibility that goes both ways, to be able to listen, truly listen what's between the lines. What is the person trying to say? Because that way we're going to create a greater understanding towards ourselves. And we're going to be heard and feel heard and seen with other people. But also giving it time. Meaning that change isn't instant, means we're all on a journey, and that's part of our experience, how we are moving forward, being in the place in our life where we have that sense of compassion, understanding towards. Things just take time, don't they? And at the end of the day, we all deserve to be happy, to have that greater clarity about everything that you do, about everything that you feel, about your day-to-day experience of life, to give your best each day, right? And that looks so different for all of us, and each day is different, but we want to be able to look back on a day and think, you know what, I did my best. Sometimes that best, I know that isn't much for me, but sometimes, you know what, I tried. I tried to come from a place of being authentic and real, and that is enough. And that's what makes me feel enough. Giving your best means that you feel enough, because you just proved it to yourself. By doing your best, you give yourself proof. Listen, I'm enough because I've tried and I've given everything that I have. That's vital. And also by holding on to hope, really holding on to hope, that no matter how difficult and crazy things get, as they invariably do, that's life for you, right? That things can and do change for the better. Thank you for being here, my friend. I'll see you next time.